Hey, first off, thanks to everyone who's been so encouraging, especially with my last video about turning down the full-time job. But just even the last few weeks, as I've been posting these videos, just the encouragement, the response of just people appreciating the honesty, the vulnerability, people relating to the struggle. That's really why I'm doing this, to share the struggle so that we all can sort of lift each other up. So please keep sharing, keep responding, and keep encouraging me, keep encouraging each other. It's important to recognize the wins, the little victories, the advances, if I can steal a term from the sales world. I had a big win this weekend. We had a great Easter break in South Georgia where we have a lot of family. So I'm hoping to shoot a movie here in this area in the fall. It's a script I wrote about 10 years ago, and I wrote it for rural South Carolina. And just in the last 6 months, I've rewritten it, updated it, did really a page one rewrite, and really rewrote it to be set and filmed out here. Just because I think we can get a lot of leverage, our dollar can go a lot further, we can get a lot of goodwill. I'm trying to record a video, okay? When Justin and I were launching Bad Theology, we had some financial support, investor support from the community here. And thank you, buddy. No, I'll hold it. So I rewrote the script to be set here, and had a meeting yesterday with one of our investors who's really excited about bringing a production here to this area, and just committed another good chunk of money to help us make the film. And it was just really encouraging, and there was another guy there and he was really interested, and even something like a small commitment or just interest or really encouraging meeting can just feel like a win. And it's amazing the power of a win, you know, just a little advance forward in the efforts of, you know, trying to make art, trying to make a film, trying to raise money, writing a script, any of the little pieces that can really be called a win. It's just incredible how the power of that to keep you going forward, and how when you don't feel a win, you just have sort of loss after loss after loss, how debilitating that can be, how despair-inducing that can be. I've had those stretches of months and months and months without a win. Coming away from this weekend in Georgia, of feeling like I want to bring a film here in the fall. Don't know if I can, don't know if it'll happen, don't know if the timing will line up, but just how much this weekend has felt like a win. You know, to get those big wins, those signpost wins, there's a lot of little advances, a lot of little wins that happen in between. And those are important. Don't overlook those. Focus on the immediate advance right in front of you, of just maybe writing one more page of that script, or having one more conversation with a potential financier, or working on someone else's film, or just having a meeting, having a coffee, getting encouraged, encouraging someone else. Little advances, little wins that can really add up to something. Every year I've looked back and I've sort of been able to chart the big wins and the small wins within a year. You know, in 2013 I was able to do this, 2014 I did this, 2015 I did this. And the big wins are important, but it's also important to look at the small victories, the small advances. And those can take all shapes and sizes. I mean, 2017 was a tough year. Fair came out in February. That was a win. You know, I released my first film. But that kind of felt like the only win for the year. I went the rest of the year with just very little work, very little victories, very little wins, very little advances. But I was able to sort of have some personal, emotional, spiritual victories and wins by the end of that year that really helped me go into 2018 much more soberly, with a much more correct perspective about what 2018 might hold, but just vision for me and my career and my future. So looking back, there was a big win for the year. And just looking at the quarter ahead, wanting to have a good perspective about it, looking at it soberly, but also excited for the wins that are just around the corner. You know, I've got a big freelance contract job that I'm wrapping up. I'll be looking for new work to kind of get me through April and May. We'll be heading to New York in June to complete another feature film that I'm a producer on. I'm a writer and producer on Premise, the sci-fi thriller, which I keep sort of teasing, which I'll talk more about as it gets closer. That film's coming together. We're getting the cast together. We're getting the financing together. learning so much from our partners in New York, the producing partners that we're are really spearheading the film and that we're getting to learn from and be a part of and have a seat at a much bigger table. That's a win. That film has taken a long time to get off the ground, but the small wins and victories for that project are important to remember and to just sort of chart along the way. And then, Lord willing, when that's done, I'll be focusing on this southern thriller that we'll shoot in Georgia that I'll be directing. But if I've learned everything, it's not to put my hope in those things and not to put too much faith in those projects, because if they get delayed or if things change, that's where the despair and the loss comes in. So it's important to not kind of count a win before it's actually achieved, but just to be aware of the small advances that get you there, each little step. And just remember, those wins and advances can just also come in the form of just things you're learning about yourself. And hang in there during the times of loss or the times without a win. Honestly, that can be the most painful thing. I've had those seasons, and when I've learned to sort of just suffer through it, push through it, that's felt like the win. Where I was like, oh, I've gotten through it, and, I didn't give up, or I didn't self-destruct into despair. Those can be just as much of a win. And honestly, those type of experiences, as I've said before, are required for being able to kind of keep going. So hang in there. Share the wins, share the losses, and just appreciate the small advances every little day, every month, every year.